what I heard. It's not real warm up here either, just in case you're wondering. So it's cold up here too. It's 15 below this morning. So
Anthony, are you there? This is Dawn.
Yes, I am. Good morning.
All right. Do you need to share your screen for anything?
I don't. I guess I did send out my report yesterday. I don't know if you're able to share that, but I'm on my tablet right now.
Okay, I can grab that if we need that. Good morning, Harley.
good morning. How's everybody doing today?
Good. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning. Everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Good. You never know. And I've had many a moment here where I'm mad scrambling. Trying to get the right things hooked up.
I was just talking to my brother this morning a little bit. He lives down in Dallas, and they're at -1 right now. Not all that warmer than us right now.
Does he have electricity, Anthony?
They don't right now. No.
Yeah. My sister lives in Austin or north of Austin. I don't know. I'm scared to call her for fear or use up some electricity. You know, I think the news there was reporting we have like 40% power outage in her area. So,
Yeah, I was
and
just
they have
talking.
there's another storm predicted. I think there's another one overnight tonight into tomorrow.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Sounds like the same kind of event, same amount of snow and ice, and not good.
I was just talking to a friend that's down in Brownsville. They have a house down there. She said it's 48 degrees in their house.
Wow.
Apparently they don't have heat either. I don't know. Or I don't know, maybe just no electricity or what, but she said it's cold. It's 1 degree outside, she said.
I worry about people, having frozen pipes because they don't bear the water down there.
Yeah.
Ann and Harley, did you see the email from our RRRS about the proclamation having some errors in it?
Yes.
She sent a couple, I think.
Sent one yesterday. I didn't know if we wanted to table that. Otherwise, I can screen share the corrected version that she had emailed.
I printed out the corrected version,
Okay. To read that one.
if that's what Ann wants, yes.
We had talked about this one, Dawn. I don't know if it was you and I or Ed and I about the proclivity for errors. And it was sloppy to start.
Yeah, she sent one, it looks like on Sunday and then also yesterday.
I don't know what harm a week would be if we tabled it to get it right and get it published right. But then we'll see what the whole group wants to do.
Okay.
Anthony,
Yes,
would you be able to give me a call after the meeting today, please?
I will do that.
Thank you.
Mary, you have a couple things that I need to sign, right? Don't we all need to sign? Maybe.
Correct. Yeah, I have the proclamation that's to be signed by all the board.
We were just talking about which version do you have? She sent 2 emails over the weekend. Anyway, I am not able to come in today to sign things. We're a 1-car house today again. So maybe tomorrow I could be in. Will that work?
I'm not in tomorrow. I'll be in Iowa City, but I can have the documents at your desk to sign.
Okay.
That's fine.
And I'll be here if there's any questions too, Ann, so.
I won't be able to come in today either. I have meetings until probably 7 o'clock tonight.
Welcome to retirement, right, Harley?
Supervisor Wickham, can you hear us?
Looks like he's just connecting.
That is correct. Yes. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, we
Morning,
can.
Jay.
Morning, Harley. Morning, Ann. Morning, Anthony. Dawn.
Morning.
Well, let's begin with our first work session, the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors meeting on Tuesday, February 16th at 2021, beginning at 8:15 with a work session with our county engineer. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning. Okay, just have a few update items here. I'll kind of run down the engineer's report that I sent out yesterday. We have one project's going to kick off pretty soon here. We have the Gun Club Road Bridge, which Taylor Construction is planning to start on next Monday. So that's one of our bigger bridge projects that's probably going to take upwards of 12 weeks to complete. So that is one of our kind of our primary routes. So we're going to send out notification that that'll be closed and put up the message boards out there as well, so people know what's going on there. Wanted to give a brief update for the bill grant update process. I attended an update meeting with the Federal Highway Administration last week concerning the decoupling request of the Northwest Material from the grant project. Supervisor Potoff, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but we originally had applied for this bill grant, putting the Northwest Material and the John Deere roads together as one big application. It's become more and more clear that that's going to be a very difficult thing to administer, with the county having to administer or oversee the Northwest Material, which is a city road now, and the John Deere roads. So we're going through a decoupling process with the Federal Highway Administration to separate the two roads. It's still going to meet the intent of the application that the two different roads will be done together or done in the same time frame, because the city is planning on reconstructing Northwest Arterial next year. So it'll be around the same time frame as John Deere roads. But we just want to administratively decouple them or separate these two roads. So we're working with the Federal Highway Administration. The gentleman that represents Federal Highway from Ames is in complete support of decoupling this. He realizes that this is going to be a difficult thing for the county to oversee. It's not impossible, but we would just rather not do that. We have to run that up the food chain to Federal Highway and DC and make sure that we go through their process to decouple this. We're still waiting on the official answer back from them. They have sent a couple questions down asking if we gave you more time to obligate this project, would you be able to do it? We still ultimately came back and said, no, we want to try to decouple this project. Where this is going to kind of push back on us a little bit is our project letting. We had planned on doing a project letting in July of this year. It's going to push that time frame back a little bit now, probably somewhere between August and October is what we're estimating. It just kind of depends on when this message or final answer comes back from Federal Highway. I still feel good about it that we're going to meet our timeframes for construction. We did not expect any kind of construction activity this fall anyways, except for maybe some utility relocates, which even that is still could still happen because we'll have a pretty polished set of plans by this summer that we'll be able to give to utility contractors and they can start working on their utility relocates this fall. Construction timeframe would still happen next year of 2022, and so we don't foresee that changing at all. So that's kind of the update we're waiting on, just that final answer from the Federal Highway Administration.
What's Tony or Anthony? What's the I guess plan for 52 in the arterial?
52. I know the DOT is still working on design for that stretch. I believe they've had some environmental issues kind of come up that. And I don't think they're planning on doing anything with 52 this coming up year. It might be delayed a little bit. And I know they're having to work with conservation too, with closing part of the Heritage Trail. So there's more complexities, as I understand it, with environmental stuff going on there. So I'm not exactly sure on the time frame as to when it's going to be constructed, but I believe it's going to be final plans and bidding out sometime late this year, and then probably construction in the following year.
But is that like a roundabout, an overpass? What, I never did see the plans for the intersection.
Oh, are you talking about for the trail crossing there, or?
No, right at 52 in the arterial. Are they doing anything with that intersection or?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, all right.
No, I think they're looking at more of what they've done to 52 to the west there. They're going to do more widening and reconstruction. But as far as any kind of roundabouts or any major reconstruction, types like that, I don't think that's in the plans.
Okay.
Okay, I guess the last item I'd like to point out is just our maintenance. I just want to, take this time to give a lot of credit to our maintenance guys for, I think, the outstanding job they've done trying to keep up with these routes. They have worked tirelessly, and I want to point that out that they really haven't had any days off for weeks now, and there's nowhere to put the snow, and but all they can do is just kind of keep pushing up vertically and just doing what they can. So those guys are tired and they deserve a lot of credit. I just want to point that out.
I received a lot of compliments on the condition of the roads. Definitely agree that they have done a great job.
Good, thanks.
I
guess
I'm hearing those things back as well. I'm sure Supervisor Wickham is. Everyone's been very appreciative. So it's nice when they can be recognized by the community at large as well.
That picture that I attached to the engineer's report, that's a photo of our snow blower that we purchased a few years ago. This will be the first year we've had it out because we really haven't had much of a winter the last few winters. We need it now, It's almost kind of one of those insurance policies that, when you need it, you need it. So it's out there. It's so great having this unit to help widen out roads. It would have taken hours to pushed back with a loader versus this just walking down the road and blowing it, wider. And this particular spot is on Farley Road, where the drift was actually probably 2 to 3 feet into the lane of the road. And he just walked right through that in probably 15 minutes and was on his way down to another location. This shows you how much snow's out there. I mean, we're pushing back a lot of snow right now. It's deep. I guess the only other update I'd like to give is we're probably about 95% complete on our radio installation process. Most of our vehicles have the new radios installed. A lot of our base stations are in place now. We're just trying to get over in the shop some of the speakers put in place so they can better hear them in different locations in the shop. Coverage has been great throughout the county. I think there was one day where they were having some problems where they couldn't communicate with each other, and I'm not sure what happened there. And we relayed that to Raycom, but other than that, it's been great. The guys have been really communicating a lot with each other and getting more and more familiar with it. You just see a lot less dependence on cell phones and more use of the radio system. So just wanted to let you guys know that it sounds like it's a very worthy and successful project, and what a difference from the old system that we had.
Good.
Well, I think
Anthony, back on the bill, man. We had discussions at the DMATS meeting related to the trail, and just maybe a comment and then a question. But my comment would be is, we're approaching with hopefully the $500,000 appropriation from DMATS, close to $1 million on that trail, and that's a good thing. On the side, I see that maybe we're still a little deficient. I just don't see a lot of engineering, design, or focus on that section yet. And that gives me more concern. So I voiced that to Brian Preston as well. And so my request would be maybe if you two could get together along with our engineering consultants, we can overcome that.
Yeah. So we definitely have done a lot of design work and thought on the trail itself adjacent to West John Deere Road. There has been, more discussion with the John Deere team as to connecting to Herbert Road and trying to make a crossing in there somewhere. So I think the thought was to, that at that crossing, bicycle traffic could, kind of loop back around over to the Proving Grounds site. But, since we had that discussion at DMATS and, to try to make a direct connection from the trail to Proving Grounds, that's an easy enough addition. And we talked about that after our call last week. I spoke with folks about that, and we're going to make that addition to the plans. There will be a direct link or kind of a tee off trail to get over to the Proving Grounds directly from that trail. One thing that we're also working with our FOAT team is the actual connection across 52. We have to find out, can we make an actual connection right to the edge of the road or edge of the, shoulder line of 52, or are we supposed to kind of stay back to the right-of-way line and kind of go from there? So we're working through some iterations with the DOT on that. The $500,000 from DMATS for the TAP funding is really to kind of take it from the south side of 52 onwards for the development of the Heritage Trail. So I think Brian is, already thinking about that and how he wants to kind of take the alignment and then how much of that section of that trail he wants to pave.
Supervisor Wickham, I know
Thank you.
when we interviewed the various firms, I know that FOAT scored quite high because in their presentation, they were very aggressive about trails and linkage and traffic areas. So I know that they stood about that issue. And I did talk to Aaron Mozina. I'm sure I got his name wrong there. And just asked him to include some more slides about that trail development. They've been so focused on those roundabout issues with John Deere and that being a kind of a change. So I think we'll see good design there, and they have those plans. They just haven't been discussing that for some reason. I think they've just not been highlighting that in any of their presentations. So I thought, we need to encourage them to give that the public space it needs as well to be discussed and explored.
Well, they are,
Agreed.
they are on the docket for next Monday for a public presentation. And I'll make sure that they, and I think they are aware now that they need to focus a little more in on the trail piece itself to really point that out to the public. So, we'll make that more of a centerpiece for next Monday.
And he was talking about exploring additional funding from the state of Iowa. Is there possibility? Are we asking for the state of Iowa to give us some funding and to cross 52 there as well?
Did Aaron say that? I guess I'm trying to recall the conversation. I don't think the state of Iowa is going to kick in anything for that crossing. I think they would, similar to the kind of work we're trying to do on Highway 20 with Thunder Hills, any kind of improvement would be put back onto the county. I guess there would be a possibility to apply for some TSIP funding, which is what we applied for over at Highway 20 in Thunder Hills to make us a nice safety crossing there. We'll just have to kind of see what the DOT requires. Can we just simply do a striped crossing or kind of a warning head signs that there's a trail crossing? It may be as simple as that, or maybe something where, signals are going to be required. So we're still trying to work on that with the DOT and get a final answer out of them on that.
Okay.
Would there be any way to take that trail up to the crossing up by Cooler Valley instead of crossing 52? I just have some
Like
concern
the overpass?
for lane, to be honest.
I'm sorry, Harley, what? You cut out there.
Would there be any way to take that trail up to Cooler Valley and use the bridge that's already in place instead of trying to cross the 4-lane? That kind of concerns me a little bit, to be honest. Obviously, being in law enforcement as long as they have been, I know how fast they drive on 52. And you're going to have people trying to cross on bicycles or walk across. I guess if there was a way to take that trail up the east side of 52 up to Cooler Valley where they would jump onto the trail there and then cross over, the bridge. I know it'd be a little more expensive, but I think it'd be a lot safer.
Yeah, we looked at that route and we pretty quickly realized that probably was going to be a no-go because it's a floodway designation through there and wetlands. So for us to be able to do any kind of grading and paving through that undeveloped area, it's highly doubt it's going to happen. I mean, we'd have to look at something maybe along the shoulder line there of 52 that wouldn't add any new fill. But I don't know if the DOT would be on board with that, of having kind of a two-way trail on their shoulder there. That would be probably the only hope of doing anything on that side.
Okay. I was just curious about that. So
Yeah, I'm not extremely comfortable with that crossing of 52 either. Probably the safest way would be to take another bridge across there, but I don't think anybody has an appetite to spend another $1.5 million on that. And but yeah, look, other than that, I don't know how else we can really get it through. We've also talked about maybe taking it under the bridge to the west up there closer to Sageville, and then trying to get under the bridge and over to the south side of the right of way 52. The problem with that is that when we have major flood events, it's going to do a lot of damage to the trail itself, and just not a lot of good options there to get across.
Well, as it is right now, we don't have any funding to do anything. That the trail stops at that edge. The build grant doesn't address how to cross that in any way, correct? I mean,
Well,
just
I'll jump in. The design right now does not. But the original concept was a signalization at that intersection in John Deere West to be used as a route, and then everything changed. So if you read the grant application, you know, it's a little different than where we are. I think they're good improvements, but, you know, there was discussion of an intersection, you know, or a signalized intersection at John Deere and what's now Highway 3 or 52 in the past. So a lot of things have changed in this project. I'm just, you know, hoping that the participants, John Deere and others, are happy with the roundabout. So that would be still a concern. I haven't heard from them in writing that they're happy with all those things. And then the trail access just needs a lot more improvement. But yeah, as it stands right now, Supervisor McDonough, you're right. There is, you know, there's the funding is not been allocated for that intersection.
No, the grant application, as far as the trail piece, was to Highway 52. It was not to make any crossing or anything like that. Now, if there was a signal installed, that would have been a natural, you know, movement of the trail system across there. And we've been through at least probably 3 meetings with John Deere and their team with going through the you know, the iterations of the traffic study, the traffic design, and it was pretty quickly realized that there would be more queuing or backing up due to the signals. And the problem is that when you force traffic to come to a stop, and then you have to slowly move, for instance, truck traffic at a lower speed. The roundabouts lend to more free flow, even though you're coming through the roundabouts themselves slower, you're still moving at a consistent speed instead of just coming to a stop condition all the time. So I think the main thing with John Deere is that they want to make sure that their freight and their employee traffic is moving and not necessarily always come to a stop. One of the issues that we were going to have with the signals at Highway 52 as well was going to be there really wasn't enough traffic there or accident history to warrant the signals themselves. We were getting a message back from the DOT that was not going to probably fly very easily. So we chose not to focus in on that and keep the design more to the roundabout situation up on South John Deere Road. So not going to say we can't have a possible signal there at some point, but we would have to increase you know, the amount of traffic that's going through there quite a bit to meet the warrants that we would need to you know, require the signals.
And Supervisor Wickham, I have attended some meetings with John Deere. They have expressed, at least at those meetings, they are supportive of the roundabouts. They like that solution. I don't know how we would get them to put something in writing about that. Is that ever part of the grant app process, Anthony, where you would expect someone to give some kind of written approval of the plans?
That would be very non-typical of us to do that. But I'm not going to say that it's not an idea we can approach here. But we would also have other businesses that we would want to go to as well. You know, we would have the quarry business up there and local traffic, just general residential traffic that runs to there as well. So I don't know if we'd want to necessarily zero in on one company on this.
And
Yeah, I think my concern,
go ahead.
you know, my experience would be, you know, so it's always good to get buy-in and get, you know, people to understand what we're trying to accomplish and agree with that. That gives you, you know, I guess a record that you can send back to the public. And so whether those are public meeting notes that we have or emails or other ones, I think they're fine. You know, it's even better if it's in writing, but doesn't mean it's going to hold up, but at least you know where you stood. And I would remind everyone, a company called Flexsteel. So we did a very large deal, City to be a whole bunch of partners, and you know, people change. Almost every leadership position at Flexsteel within a 2-year period was no longer there. And so the people you're speaking now within the private sector may not be there in the future. And somebody might question you on why we did this. And it's always good to be able to, you know, have the record to say, here's why we made these changes, because you know, the impact, obviously, that the largest employer has in that area is pretty significant and warranted.
Yeah, and I would say that, when we have our meetings with, whether it's John Deere or somebody else, Foth does a great job on taking minutes of those meetings, and documenting that in the project record. So we do have, the minutes, not necessarily John Deere saying, yes, we are in support, write this down, but, we've had good consensus from their team, and I think that's been documented in the minutes.
Right. But Jay's concern about the management changing, I mean, that's a good thing to point out. I mean, the folks who have been at the meetings, there's certainly been senior management there, and it's been, the traffic engineers agreeing that they'd like to see the roundabouts. I mean, there's the buy-in has been from very much I guess your counterpart, Anthony, the people who are moving freight that would want to have the engineers who do those time studies, who know what their trucks are doing. So, but the other notes to support it in a kind of a flex deal way. It's good to think about that. I'm not sure, even if we had all that notes and buy-in, Jay, what we would do about it if that kind of a significant change happened. We're just beholden
At least know
to
where you
who's
stood.
ever there. Yeah.
You
Well, I
know
think
where you
that's
stood,
been
and possibly the area is the public hearing. And so, when we have public hearings and public meetings, having people from the private sector that will benefit from these traffic improvements, having them present and commenting would be very helpful to me.
And I guess the other thing I'd like to just say about, the trail development on the other side of 52 there, I think we probably should make sure we're talking about both sides of 52 to make any development happen. I mean, in light of the public, the public safety issue, I mean, we really can't create, or we should be very careful in design of creating something very eye appealing on the opposite side of this trail to draw people across if we haven't thought all that through. So I think the DMAT's discussion was about the engineering of that, of how we're going to get that connectivity to happen. It would be concerning if we were only looking at how we're taking Heritage Trail on the other side of the road and connecting that space back to the Heritage Trail. That's needed too, but if we don't have an answer to the crossing of 52, maybe we don't have an answer to trail development at that point.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem. We got to figure out how to get across there. I agree. I mean, we have to kind of keep thinking about this, how to make this as safe as possible. And we don't want to necessarily create an attraction on the other side, and then we don't have a good way to do that. So I don't think we can just flippantly just throw some money at this and make a crossing there. We need to intelligently think through this.
And that's not on the comprehensive plan, is it, Supervisor Wickham? That this wouldn't have made the part of the comprehensive plan.
Well, it's number one. The number one item requested
It's
by
the trail.
the citizens, and this are trails. And then the number one trail is the Heritage Trail. So obviously any connectivity is way up there. This specific project wasn't listed out, but the Heritage Trail scores quite well. But yeah, no, I think these are all good conversations. We've got to figure out how you can get traffic across there safely. And, as we started, we anticipated there being signalized controls at that T intersection. And that is not the case at this moment. So we've got to resolve it. The good news is that you said one good news is you said there wasn't a lot of traffic on the road. Bad news is, as Supervisor Potoff mentioned, they tend to go pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any discussion on a roundabout at 52 and 386 there, Anthony? You kind of sounded like you had some discussion on that, or you're talking about the ones on John Deere Road?
Yeah, more of John Deere Road. That's where we really haven't had the discussion around kind of the same thing. You need the kind of level of traffic from both directions to create the warrant for the roundabout itself, much like the signal. And quite honestly, there's just not enough traffic coming from West John Deere Road to create that situation. Yeah, who knows? Maybe traffic patterns will change from you know, the business of John Deere or the quarry, and that would change that, or even employ traffic. I don't want to say it this way. You know, you almost need traffic to increase to create warrants to do this. You know, and if 52 was a county road, it would be easy for us to say, yeah, let's just do it. But you know, we have to get the DOT's buy-in on that, and we have to go through the proper warrants with them themselves.
I think the answer is the bridge. You know, I understand it's expensive, but we should at least be exploring that as the safe option when we get to that. I'm not talking about that today, but as part of the whole design there, that is I mean, that would be the safest way. It's a highway traffic, 4-lane. I don't know how you know, you're not going to control the speed there probably no matter what happens until,
Right.
you know, there's significant change in development, and that's not going to happen because of the topography that you have there with the floodplain.
Right.
I would have to think there'd be some state grants that we could apply for a bridge across there. I mean, $1.5 million is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but one 20-year-old gets killed crossing on the road, and you know, that $1.5 million really isn't that much money at that point.
Yep, I agree.
Just my thoughts anyway. So.
Yep. So these are some conversation we'll need to bring Brian Preston in, and maybe he's got some more opportunities for some recreational type grants for this kind of situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, I'll throw one more wild card in there, which was discussed at the, you know, Conservation Board, is taking the trail from basically the proving grounds to John Deere Road and going up in front of, you know, the various businesses. There was like 17, you know, intersections or accesses you'd cross, most of them very slow traffic, and some of them private and some of them public. And then that would route you to the Heritage Trail where the kind of that underpass is,
Mm-hmm.
and that parking lot is. And then to get across, they could use the same bridge. So maybe we take a peek at that design again. We weren't real crazy about the intersections, but all of them are low speed intersections, and all of them come to a stop. So the trail would cross in front of those, and then maybe right away issues. But that was another idea we had to get traffic, to get the bikes to down to the Heritage Trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the only issue we saw was all the driveways and intersections that would be conflict points for the trail users. But when you start talking about a possible $1.5 million to $2 million bridge crossing 52, yeah, this makes this option worth looking into a little more.
Well, I think Foth's the answer too, though. I mean, you know, I had the benefit of seeing all their presentations, and they were working on trails in very high traffic areas in Cedar Rapids. And where there was a lot of traffic, it was not moving at anywhere near the speed, but there were many connection points, and they had to create a trail where, you know, non-used sidewalks existed kind of from the amount of traffic that was moving there. So you know, that's why they're an important voice.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say put them to work. I've seen nothing so far, nothing. So
Well,
I mean, where is it?
well, so
A line on the map is all I've seen. There's a line on the map. That's all I've seen. And so if there is other stuff, let's bring it forward.
in their defense, that they can't do any kind of design work on any new trail along South John Deere Road over to 52, because that's not in the scope of the actual grant project itself. So we would have to come up with a whole new agreement with FOTH to run through those iterations, I guess.
Anthony, I guess I'm not asking them to create that. I'm asking them to, when they design the trail, anticipate that it's going to be heavily used and it's going to be part of the Heritage Trail pattern. Can't they look at future use? And so it's not just some lazy trail. It's got the potential to be a major connector to, a well-used county park.
Yep. Yeah, I can ask them to take a look at that. Yes.
Is there anything further for Anthony this morning?
Just one question, Anthony, doesn't relate to any of that. Is there anything on for Sundown Road in the long range planning?
Is Sundown north of Old Highway?
Sundown Road from Piasta down to 151.
Okay, nothing right now in the 5-year construction program. But we are planning on doing a project for shoulder widening, shoulder paving from Monastery down to 151, and that's planned for this year. Included with that is going to be some concrete patching of some deteriorated areas to try to keep the existing road in good condition as best as possible. I would say, I've been kind of thinking about that road probably around the 10-year time frame is where we're gonna want to do some kind of major reconstruction type project on that. And at that point, it might involve some major widening. That road almost acts like a state highway to Dubuque County, and it's not gonna be your typical road that you just go slap an overlay on and call good. There's probably going to be some shoulder widening in the future. Who knows? Maybe it'll even grow into a 4-lane situation at some point.
That would be, I guess, the direction I would be looking for the future. Piasta keeps expanding. There is a lot of semi-traffic on Sundown Road, a lot. And it's obviously not going to get any less. I mean, if we can keep patching, but I think it's going to come to a point at some time where that's a major travel route that I don't know if it'd be another federal type, grant that we'd be looking at, for connectivity from 20 to 151 anyway. But
yeah, for sure. If we're going to look at kind of big picture 4-lane situation, we're probably going to be in that $25-30 million range. So we're going to want to think big, and in terms of maybe a future build grant or some other large type grant.
Just wondering, I'd been thinking about that for quite a while, and actually had a citizen call me on the same issue, and curious about it.
Yep. And that I'm just ballparking $25-30 million, but that wouldn't include the right of way necessary. There would probably be some displacement of properties, or maybe realignment to avoid displacing properties. So yeah, this is something that we should start thinking through and plan for, 10-15 years out, maybe down the road. It's going to take all that just to kind of plan through and start developing funding for.
Yep.
Anthony, have you ever heard an offhand comment from any of our Iowa DOT friends just about, I have heard them, as I'm with you on the build grant things, I've heard them say they currently have Dubuque County fatigue. They've done so many projects with us that they'd like to have us hold our own a little bit. But do you think, do they understand that this is a major problem for the county, that the Sundown Road should be probably 4-lane?
That could be true, that there is probably some Dubuque County fatigue, but nevertheless, Dubuque County is one of the few areas in the state that's actually growing. So you can't ignore that. You can't ignore the fact that traffic patterns are changing and increasing. Yeah, we might have to take a break for a year or two for any kind of major type state funding or federal grant funding, but the problem is still not going to go away. And I think we have a great team of people in this county to, push for these major type projects. And so I don't think the fatigue is going to set in for years to come. I think we've got good buy-in from the DOT District 6 staff that they know there's plenty of issues up here, and that everyone knows Sundown Road is one of those, is probably our most important road in the county for what it does for getting people back and forth between Cedar Rapids and Dubuque, and moving that freight truck traffic back and forth. So it's not one to ignore.
Anything further? If not, let's have a brief recess. Looking to 9 o'clock.
I'll make a motion to recess till 9.
I will second that.
A motion a second to recess until 9. All in favor, say aye.
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 We'll recess till 9 a.m. Thank you. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Anthony.
Good morning. And yes, there's Supervisor Wickham and Supervisor Potoff. Good morning. I will call the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors back into session for Tuesday, February 16th, 2021 at 9 a.m. The first item on our agenda is the time where we welcome public comments. If there's anyone who would like to address the board on matters which are on the agenda that will be before us today, and you would like to do so at this time, you can do that by raising your hand. If you're on video, you can give us a wave. We ask that you give your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes if you would. So if there's anyone who would like to speak, now would be the opportunity. I see a comment, Gabrielle, and let's see if we can unmute her, please. Can you give us one more wave so my tech people see which, there you are, thank you. See if I can.
You have
do
to
that.
unmute yourself.
Okay,
There
I
you
did.
are. You we can hear you.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I just don't know if this is the appropriate time to extend thanks to the commissioners, or if you do that when you read the proclamation. I'm Robert Martin's, one of his daughters, his oldest daughter.
Very good. Well, welcome. And I'm glad to have you here. Do you have other family with you as well?
Yes, Dominique Martin. And
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Claudia Maddox,
Good morning.
and I'm the niece of Robert Martin.
Very good.
Good morning.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the board? We will, Gabriel, give you opportunity after the proclamation is read
Okay.
and adopted. We have had some, this morning, the county offices were not open yesterday, it being
Yeah.
President's holiday. So, but I do think we have the final proclamation that we're ready to adopt this morning. So if we have no other citizens, do we have any other hands being raised? I don't see anything. So we'll move on the agenda. And then, of course, the first thing on the agenda is the proclamation. And Dawn's going to begin by sharing that. And does it look as though it's the corrected version? I see RRS is present as well. We think this is the final version that we were given. All right. And did we have one of the supervisors who was going to read this into the record?
I can do so, Ann.
Thank you, Supervisor Potoff.
Proclamation honoring the memory and legacy of Captain Robert L. Martin. Whereas Captain Robert L. Martin was born in Dubuque on February 9, 1919, and graduated from the Tuskegee Airman Program and received his wings as a fighter pilot on January 7, 1944. And whereas Captain Robert L. Martin was assigned to the 100th Fighter Squadron, a part of the 332nd Fighter Group assigned to the European theater operations. And whereas the elite Tuskegee Airmen were dedicated, determined young men who volunteered to become America's first Black military airmen and broke racial barriers to become the most respectable fighter group and segregated military that previously never thought Blacks could fly planes in defense of their country. And whereas the Tuskegee Airmen were called Red Tails because of the crimson paint on the tails of their P-51 Mustangs, and are now renowned for their documented 1,578 successful missions, during which they maintained one of the lowest loss records of all the escort fighter groups. And whereas German military forces knew them as the Black Birdmen, and whereas the County of Dubuque is proud to recognize the skills and talents of Captain Robert L. Martin in aviation and protecting our country. And whereas Captain Robert L. Martin's legacy is to be shared and remembered for generations to come with the naming of the Captain Robert L. Martin Terminal in his honor at the Dubuque Regional Airport. And now for Now therefore, the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors, on behalf of the staff and citizens of Dubuque County, do hereby recognize the birthday of Captain Robert L. Martin during Black History Month in Dubuque County, Iowa, and urge residents to affirm the rich stories of local heroes. The 16th day of February, 2021, Dubuque County Board of Supervisors. Ann McDonough, Harley Putoff, Jay Wickham.
Very good. Looking for a motion to approve the proclamation.
I will make a motion to approve the proclamation honoring the memory and legacy of Captain Robert L. Martin.
And I will second that. Motion a second to approve the proclamation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And now we will open the floor to family members who wish to speak. Gabrielle, we'll come back to you.
Oh, thank you again. Good morning. And as you mentioned, there was a little bit of scurrying to get the correct version. So I appreciate all the efforts that went into that. And I also thank the commissioners for honoring my father in this way. I think that this will also help enrich the lives of Dubuquans and people who live in the county and from across the state, as well as travelers who come through Dubuque. So again, my heartfelt thanks.
Well, you're very welcome. It's wonderful to be able to do this for our entire community, as you say. Is there any other family member that wishes to make a comment?
I'm Claudia Maddox. Oh, go ahead, Dominique.
Go ahead, Claudia.
My mother was Robert Martin's sister. And she was also born and raised in Dubuque, and she would be so proud. And we all are. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claudia.
And I would just join in. We really appreciate this recognition of my father's contributions to Dubuque, the Dubuque area, and to the country. And we thank you for doing this proclamation to help spread the word to other residents of the county and the state and the country. So thank you very much. We're very honored.
Thank you for being here with us today as well. That makes a tremendous difference. So I appreciate you sharing your time with us. Did we have any comments from fellow supervisors?
Thank you for being here today, and honored to do the proclamation for you.
Yep, we appreciate your family's participation in this, and obviously the sacrifices they've made to the country.
Oh, I would just like to say, I apologize. I keep calling you commissioners and your supervisors, so please forgive me.
It's no problem at all. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being with us this morning. And of course, you're welcome to stay if you'd like to see county government up close and personal. Thank you, everyone. All right, we will move on to our agenda. The next is the approval of the minutes. I had asked there be one minor correction indicating the names of the compensation committee members who were present. And I think with that correction, I believe that that they should be. Did anyone else have comment to make about the minutes?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of February 1st and 4th with the corrections identified by Supervisor McDonough.
I will second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Thank you. No consent items before us today. So moving on to agenda item number 4, procurement procedures. We're looking for a notice to bidders for the MHA resurfacing on English Mill Road project loss -22 sub 01-7331. Was there anyone to make a presentation, or are we going directly to the motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the notice to bidders for the project that is due at 3 p.m. Friday, March 5th
I will
at the Dubuque
second.
County Courthouse.
I will second. Sorry, Jay.
Motion and a second to approve the notice to bidders for the resurfacing on English Mill Road. Lost project 22 sub 01-7331. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Next, we have a resolution also approving the resurfacing lost project on English Mill Road, lost project 22 sub 01-73-31.
I'll
Looking
make
for-
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I will second that.
The motion and a second to approve the resolution approving the plans and specifications for English Mill Road. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. The next item on our agenda is setting a public hearing for the fiscal year 21 secondary roads 5-year construction program and fiscal year 22 secondary roads 5-year construction programs.
I would make a motion to approve the notice of public hearing for the amendment to the fiscal year 21 secondary roads 5-year construction program and the fiscal year 22 secondary roads 5-year construction program.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the amendment to fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22 secondary roads construction programs. Said public hearing to be held on March 1st, 2021 at 9 a.m. via Zoom. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have approval of plats. I believe that we have Tammy Henry. Yes, there she is with us. Tammy, did you want to give us the context?
I sure will. This is lot 1 of 2 and lot 2 of 2 of Schuler Homestead, final plat. This property is owned by Marvin and Jane Schuler Revocable Living Trust and is located 1.84 miles northeast of the city of Sherrill along Circle Ridge Road with a total of 18.91 acres surveyed. The property is zoned R1 rural residential and A1 agricultural. The purpose of this plat is to separate a lot to allow their son and daughter-in-law to build a new home. This survey creates 2 lots. Lot 1 of 2 is a total of 1.15 acres surveyed, and it will be the site for the new home. And lot 2 of 2 is a total of 17.76 acres surveyed, and it will remain in current ownership and agricultural use. Lot 1 of 2 will use an approved residential entrance on permit number 20-31, and lot 2 of 2 will use the existing field entrances off the north and south sides of Circle Ridge Road. There were no additions or corrections required for the plat, and there are no liens or mortgages on this property. Some of the signatures were over 60 days old, and they included the engineer August 31st of 2020, Platts officer September 15th of 2020, county planning and zoning September 15th of 2020, owner's consent November 19th of 2020, county assessor October 12th, 2020, county health September 19th of 2020, and the city of Sherrill December 8th of 2020. This plat's been reviewed by myself as Platts officer. It has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. This is just a pretty little simple plat. That section that you're looking at where lot 1 of 2 is zoned residential. And as I explained, their son and daughter-in-law are going to build a home out here. And the son does farm all in that area and will continue to help with his father's farm as well. Anybody have any other questions for me?
Do not. If there are none, we're looking for a motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve the plat as presented.
I will second.
Motion is second to approve the final plat of Schuler Homestead. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome.
Next items are action items. The board may approve, deny, or table any action item. The first is a resolution confirming the following hires. These would be appointments.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the hirings of the Sunnycrest personnel.
I will second.
Motion is second to approve the hiring of the Sunnycrest employees. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Thank you. The next resolution is an MOU with retired and senior volunteer program for volunteer services. Tom Berger is on the call. He may also be on the phone. I don't know that. Do we need to have Tom give us any information? He is available here by Zoom. Tom, did you want to give us context?
Yeah. The volunteers play a very crucial role in any of our disaster response. We've been working with Marie over at RSVP for years as far as setting up our volunteer reception center. And that's basically what she's doing. She does have an MOU that kind of legalizes everything, that she signs a multi-year contract with the city. So we brought that over to the county, and we'll take it also to the Emergency Management Commission as well. But it just puts everything in writing. She's coordinating all our volunteers out at the pod, which when we have one provider there, it's 3 to 4, but once we get fully operational, it'll be about 8 to 10 volunteers that are assisting. So, and I believe you did attend one of them trainings that they did out here. They do a couple of them at the volunteer reception center training. So that gives you an idea. So we're working with Randy Gale as we get going in the long term to get more volunteers. So they come in, they get trained, and then everything goes forward there. So great group of people, and Marie is a very smart individual and great to work with, and really helping us out with quite a task out there.
So it was really a good training experience. They take just everyday folks and they stand you up and get you ready to be somewhat organized and ready to follow instructions. And mostly you learn to just do your job and stay out of the way of the others. So very good. It was well done. So thank you. Looking for a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding.
I will make the motion to approve the memorandum of understanding.
And I will second that.
Motion is second to approve the resolution approving the MOU. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Under communication, the board will receive and file without taking action. We received 2 tax letters such as this, and they were both included in our agenda packet. They actually ended up on our board desk and passed around a little bit before we actually got them on the agenda. So I think we'll know to put them straight on the agenda in the future.
I will make a motion to receive and file the letter from the City of Dubuque related to the Digman property.
I will second.
A motion is second to receive and file the letter from the City of Dubuque related to the Digman property. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. The second letter, if we can, is this the second one now? This is Ryan.
That is correct. This is for the Ryan tax appeal.
Okay.
I would make a motion to receive and file the Ryan tax appeal.
And I will second that.
Motion is second to receive and file the letter from the City of Dubuque regarding the Ryan tax appeal. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Next on our agenda packet is also under communications. No no formal action taken, is an update from our zoning administrator regarding the NAP property and the pending zoning violation. I know Tammy is still with us, but it is a communication. If there are no questions, we could receive and file.
Obviously with.
I'll make a motion.
Sorry. Jay. I was just gonna ask Tammy, obviously with the weather, I'm assuming there's not much going on out there now.
Yeah, Supervisor Potoff, you can see that I went and took those pictures in your packet. I did drive by there yesterday and nothing has changed. And again, it's the weather condition right now.
Right. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Jay.
No, I think we've made progress, but obviously the winter has halted some of that progress. But generally speaking, over the last 60 days or maybe 90 days, we're moving in the right direction.
And do we wish to have it come back before us in about, to just give some direction to Tammy? Do we want it back before us in 90 days to get hopefully to a spring thaw, or what are our thoughts? There's definitely progress being made.
I would think that would make sense.
Yeah, I would agree with 90 days also.
Okay,
I'll prepare something for all of you then for a 90-day review.
thank you. Need a motion then to.
I will make a motion to receive and file.
I will second.
We have a motion, a second, to receive and file the update from the zoning administrator. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate you staying on this. All right, next section 9 on our agenda are appointments. And we have 2 sets of appointments today. The first is the Magistrate Appointing Committee. And there was a memo from our interim director, Ed Raber, setting forth the criteria and the gender balance issues. Hopefully, everyone had a chance to look at that. Did we need any information or context? Probably wouldn't be bad to give citizens a little bit of background. Ed, do you want to give us a short summary?
Thank you, Supervisor McDonough. This is Ed Raber. The Magistrate Appointing Commission is one that I guess slipped past us in December. This is a joint commission with, meaning that the county does not make all of the appointments to this. This is one where there are 6 positions. The supervisors are asked to appoint 3. The Bar Association of Dubuque County elects 2 from their membership. And the chief judge in the area appoints a sitting judge from the area. And those individuals, Judge Michael Schubat is the appointed judge, and the attorneys, Jeffrey Hyatt and Todd Stevenson, are elected to 6-year terms by the Bar Association, and that happened recently. So there are 3 positions by design. They all come, their terms all end or all coincide with each other. So you make these 3 appointments, and in 6 years, assuming none have left, the board will be asked to make 3 more appointments. So we, staff on our side, we advertised this opportunity in area media on Facebook, and there was some interest, and there have been 7 applications that were received. One of them is from someone that had whose term just ended. There is a mix of men and women and some geographic diversity around the county. I would note that this entity, this commission, has activities to do generally, barring some resignation of a magistrate. Magistrates serve 4-year terms, and the 4 magistrates in Dubuque County, their terms expire this summer, late summer, and this Magistrate Appointing Commission will be reviewing applications this summer for magistrate. And they will make those recommendations on to the governor to fill those positions. So that is the purpose of the group. And let me know if you have any questions in terms of, it's a 3-member board. So there are, ideally, unless there's some other extenuating circumstances, you may want to consider just a mix of genders that you appoint, among other things that you may consider in your deliberation. So happy to answer any of the questions you have. Try to lay everything out in the memo.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. I know from my perspective on this, this committee is responsible for interviewing the individuals that most citizens come directly into contact with. These are the magistrates or the judges that you see for your traffic violations where you need to appear. And Harley, you can, chime in. We all have some general knowledge of this, but it is, I think, the most frequent contact that a person would have with a judge in our legal system. And so I was excited that we could have the opportunity to appoint new individuals or other individuals to this committee, and is a way to have different discussion. Many years ago, I applied to be a magistrate, and it's a good experience for those who are putting their hat into the ring to be considered, but it's also an opportunity for citizens to formulate the questions and be part of a process where they get to interact with people who set low-level, terms and conditions of, minor infractions. These are the individuals who are going to likely hear commitment proceedings. So there's really, there's a reason, I think, to have diversity on this magistrates appointing committee. And so that's kind of how my perspective was as I reviewed the applications, is to say, we want to have gender diversity, but we also want to have life experience and diversity as well. So that is the way I brought, my thinking and evaluation to the candidates. As I looked at the individuals, and we did have people with great experience who applied, but I personally would be looking for all new people on this commission. Any thoughts or
I appreciate
comments?
that context. That helps me. I was less familiar with this process, not being as familiar maybe with the legal process as Supervisor McDonough and Potoff. I'd first of all like to thank Mary Ann Speck for serving and participating. She was at the county courthouse here when I was first appointed and elected as well. So appreciate her for serving. And generally speaking, my vantage point has been is we do have new people that are willing to step forward and serve, that we give them the opportunity.
I would concur with that. I guess after going through the applications, I don't know if you want to maybe make some recommendations at this point, Ann, or would you like to proceed with this? Or
No, I think that's the point that we're at, and I would just, I think, draw to everyone's attention the the application of Collins Ebo. So a gentleman who is involved in inclusivity, and I really would love to hear the conversations and the questions that are going to be formulated when we have our first African-American who serves on this committee. That would be my hope, that we would choose our only minority applicant. But just to say, in light of our proclamation today, just how different the world could be if we had a fresh perspective, and a perspective no one can bring other than, true life experience that's so different than my own. So, I just think it's a great mix of however we put these people together. You just have opportunities for there to be really interesting questions from a citizen perspective. That's just really a great thing. So a different world today as we look at, this is the only strike we can make to criminal justice or conversation in our job, I think, as a supervisor, to put people who are thinking and thoughtful on this commission. So, but yeah, I'm happy to, if anyone has someone they want to put forward, I certainly.
Well, I would probably I would probably second Colin's comment. I've known him for the last 5-7 years in the community, and seems to represent himself very well, and probably would do a very good job on this commission as well. And so that candidate was on my list.
Very good. So do we have, I'll consider my comments then as a motion to approve the appointment of Colin Zebo, and Supervisor Wickham, is that
And
a
I will
second?
second that. I will
Okay.
second that.
Is there any further discussion? Don't mean to exclude you, Harley, from anything about that applicant.
No, absolutely not. I was very good with that also.
Motion first and second to approve Collins Ebo to the Magistrates Commission. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Others you wish to put forward?
Clay Gavin has a lot of courthouse experience. I wanted to get one person from Dubuque and 2 from the outlying areas. So Clay kind of fit that for me, from the Cascade area, bring somebody from outside the city limits in. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, of course, I know Clay as well from my years practicing law, but you know, we are going to have a gender balance issue, Harley, if we appoint, you know, this commission currently is 3 men from the Bar Association. So if we have female candidates, we want to be looking at them as well. So, I mean, I would be personally looking to appoint our next 2 appointees as being women candidates, rather than another man to add to the commission.
Okay, my other one would be Nancy Dunkel from Dyersville, if that would be, if you'd have any discussion on that.
Well, that would be on my short list as well. So maybe I'll play my cards here. So out of my 3, I had Nancy Dunkel and Joyce Connors as well as my applicants. I know the other candidates too, and it would serve as well, but that was the short list I came to at this point.
Right.
Okay.
So shall we put forward, does anyone want to make a motion for Nancy Dunkel to appoint her to this commission?
I would make the motion to appoint Nancy Dunkel.
I
will second that.
We have a second for Nancy. A motion made and seconded to appoint Nancy Dunkel to the Magistrates Commission. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. So it sounds as though we have, I also liked, I mean, actually, they're all great applicants, honestly. We're not going to make a mistake by putting this mix together at all. So Jay, is there a name that you wanted to put forward in the form of a motion?
Well, I would make a motion to appoint Joyce Connors.
I would second that.
Motion and a second to appoint Joyce Connors. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Excellent candidates, and I think a great commission. Be interesting to see the direction of how the lawyers handle 3 phenomenal citizens to join in this task. So very good.
Definitely a great problem to have when we have this many applicants for only 3 positions again.
We have been fortunate this year, that's for certain. So,
Yes.
all right, the next issue on the agenda is to appoint, it's the formal, I guess, action if we're going to take some for the a liaison supervisor acting as a liaison position to the Board of Health. This is not a voting member, and I've done some research on this, and Ed, you've got a memo for us. Do you want to give us any kind of context generally?
My context, thank you, Supervisor McDonough. This is Ed Raber. My context is supervisors have discussed this in the last 6 months appointing a supervisor to the Board of Health, doing other things. Those things did not happen. As we continue to respond to the way that you're asking for interaction, input, and better communications in discussions with the Iowa Department of Public Health consultant in our region, those conversations and conversations with other colleagues of yours that have this arrangement in places like Blackhawk County. This is merely offering up a vehicle that I think the Iowa Department of Public Health sees as a arrangement that has positive benefits for both the boards of health and the boards of supervisors generally, relatively common. It's not like being an ex officio board director, but it's slightly more pronouncedly embeds a supervisor liaison with the Board of Health to more directly facilitate communication between those two groups, the Board of Supervisors and the Board of Health. So certainly it's not a requirement. This is something that has been discussed, and I presented this memo just as a path for discussion and potential action for you.
What are the thoughts of supervisors? And I would also welcome input from Tom Besh, and the chair of the Board of Health is here. But what are our thoughts initially on this? It could be a helpful position to have.
I might add in my concluding remarks that we've had discussions about this with the health department staff, and I think that the leadership of the Board of Health, Tom Besh, is aware and has been in some of those discussions as well. This is just new to them today.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think the couple thoughts I would have. One, I would want to understand certainly the Board of Health, both the leadership board chair, vice chair, and the director, if they're welcoming this. You never want to just butt in. I was one of the advocates for having a supervisor on the Board of Health a while back, and that was not supported, and so we did not do that. So I think having more participation and a closer relationship would help. That said, I think the one caution I'd have if we do go forward with this is that liaison and then would need to know, and or the Board of Health and members of the public need to know they're not speaking for the Board of Supervisors, because we've had multiple 2-to-1 votes on various issues related to the Board of Health over the last year. And so I wouldn't say the Board of Supervisors has, a full consolidated effort amongst the three, and there's been multiple members, more members, 4 in total, that have supported. So that's my only concern, is that, whoever the liaison would be, is that they would make the comment that they're not speaking for the Board of Supervisors, only speaking for themselves. But the math is pretty easy, as I always said. So once you know the position of one supervisor, once you get a second, the majority has spoken. But generally speaking, that would be my comments, and I'd welcome my other comments from my colleagues.
Would this be, I guess I'm a little bit confused here. Would this be something that we could have Ed take care of as the liaison between the board and the Board of Health?
Actually, the way it's currently operating is that public input and full conversation among folks, like when any of us attend, any supervisor attends a Board of Health meeting, which we all have been doing in and out. I mean, for certainly the past year, but even prior to that, throughout my term, I have. There isn't a way to give any input about what the board has done or hasn't done, because the members of the public we are perceived as a member of the public, and that's not a problem. And Ed is the same. He's a member of the public. When he's included in the process and in what they're doing, then he might be regarded as a facilitator. But this is trying to bring about a little bit, some clarity. You know, it will be a disaster if the person who's the liaison does this poorly. We don't need to be in anybody's way in a pandemic. You know, that's emergency management 101. But I do think it would help for clarity in that direct line of communication. And that I think has some value, and other counties have found this to be valuable. You know, I would offer either of my colleagues could wish to do this. And I would think it would be something we would want to continue. I mean, I have met with various members of the Board of Health over the years. I'm part of an opioid response team, a substance use, abuse disorder subcommittee that was there and then gone. Just that there's lots of issues that the Board of Health could probably use another connection point even to the community, and supervisors can be that as well.
Would this be a position?
Is there an opening?
Sorry,
Is there any
go ahead.
opening on the Board of Health right now? Is there one opening or not? Or are they entirely
There's
full?
not.
There's
There's
not.
not an opening. This would be, and I wouldn't, I mean, I didn't favor that when we talked about that before when there were openings. I don't want a supervisor to vote. I think it's a citizen committee by design. I think this is intended to be creating better communication. And Tom, I do see your hand raised. I just want to make sure that the board's got our discussion here, but I do think Tom's perspective will be valuable. Are we ready to have Tom, or do we want something?
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Tom.
yes, this is Tom Basham, Chair of the Board of Health. I would like a little bit more clarification on how this liaison interacts with the board. In our meetings, do we set aside a specific time for liaison discussion? I don't know that I'm in favor of this liaison having the ability to interact during board deliberation. I'm not sure how that will work. So, you know, it's not that I'm opposed to the proposition. I just want to understand how it would work. And I think that's the feeling of some of the other people who are associated with the board. How can this benefit both of us if we can come away with a plan that we both look back and say, hey, this was a great idea, I'm all for it. But if it becomes a stumbling block that creates discord during our meetings, I don't think we've improved anything.
Supervisor McDonough,
Excuse me?
Supervisor McDonough, if you wanted me to respond to Chair Basham.
Sure.
Tom, I think that you hit it on the head there. My understanding that both from the Department of Public Health's consultant, as well as talking with colleague supervisor in another nearby metro, typically what happens is that Board of Health would have a agenda item, a standing agenda item for that kind of conversation about things with the Board of Supervisors. I think that may happen at different counties may put that agenda item at different locations on their agenda at the beginning or toward the end. But it would appear that the best practice is not to have someone as a ex officio member that merely feedback. Ex officio member that is directly a participant in the meeting with the Board of Health on those issues, but certainly is perhaps slightly different status in case the Board of Health does want to engage that liaison during other sections of your agenda. But generally, it's that listening and then for that liaison, and then the opportunity to have a discussion agenda item for the liaison to inform the Board of Health and staff, as well as the Board of Health to inform the liaison about activities going back and forth. The idea being to improve or enhance communication.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. That's, I guess, you know, that's a perspective that has happened in other counties. And I think our relationship here will organically develop, is what I think would happen. I'm just going to give you an example, Chair Beshen. The Vaccination Subcommittee that you have was something that I brought forward to your Board of Health and asked that in light of some reporting that was done in the Telegraph Herald and some lack of information that we had for clarity from the VNA about immunization numbers, I met with Patrice and Stacy Killian and Diane Freiberger, and I think Diane Heiken was on that originally. So that was a comment that came from the Board of Health meeting, but that was drawn outside and created a subcommittee with the supervisor in attendance. And I was at that very first meeting and then never heard from again. I don't need to do that. Supervisors can be the connectors. They're not the drivers. Do you see that difference? It's that if they're involved and engaged and they're a communication piece, they can help create something, but then they're not necessarily doing the work. So it's in addition to, the design is to make it better and more efficient for the county overall, but also so that there's communication between the Board of Supervisors and directly to your health board members. We're in a time of change on the Board of Health, new members coming on, and it is, I think, something that could be made better if there's a liaison who treats the position with respect. And I think that that's the key, that it isn't, you know, if a liaison is at the Board of Health meeting only speaking in the last 2 minutes, you've already done that. That's the only time that we get to speak, is in open public discussion. If the person is part of the Board of Health, not in deliberation, but in discussion and not voting, that can be respected, that it's a citizen committee.
I'll weigh back in here since there's a little silence. So, you know, when I first was, appointed to the Board of Supervisors, I was surprised that we weren't on a lot of boards in which we entirely fund and the employees are actually county employees. Instead, we were assigned a bunch of other boards that we didn't even fund and didn't even have any employees on. So, some of that has changed, and so some of the boards I'm on actually do receive some county funding and participation, and others still do not. But, you know, my vantage point, and that's why I was an advocate for having a supervisor on the Board of Health, and was an advocate, obviously, on having a supervisor on the Conservation Board, which I currently serve in. And there's other ones, examples as well. And so, you know, generally speaking, I'm moving forward, having more supervisors provide more support, guidance, and work. That's what they elect us for, to give our opinion, give our, you know, knowledge and insight related to these issues. So I'm not opposed to the liaison position. In fact, I would rather see more participation on these boards. But it is probably clear just on, you know, what are the expectations for, one, the liaison, and then two, the board that's going to be receiving them. If we can get that ironed out, then I would generally support it.
I'm not sure how we would iron it out, honestly, Jay.
Well, I heard Tom say that, you know, he doesn't want you interrupting the meeting, you can speak at the end, and I heard you say that you're not real cool on that. So, so that's what I
Well,
would say
I
of
mean,
ironing
that's
it out. What's
Right, that's
what's
what
the
we
middle ground?
currently have, but I mean, certainly the board could benefit from conversation during the meeting about, is it an open meetings law? I mean, there's things that we have seen that we're living in right now where some help from input from a member of the Board of Supervisors isn't out of line. It is actually helpful. That doesn't mean I'm debating, or you or Harley debating the merits of a mask mandate, but how you might step through the procedure. And have you consulted all of the individuals who you happen to know have contacted supervisors? That's a benefit. That's an up. The decision will still be made by citizens, but to operate without that being beneficial, it means that you're not working fully representing the county at large. And that's concerning. And that's what I would have to offer. And to be the last agenda item at the end is currently the role we play. So I don't know that it is up to the Board of Health. This is a liaison position that most other counties do as best practice because it's an important role and it needs the direct line of communication. So if we're not going to move this forward, I would want to know, are we satisfied with the relationship and the communication that we have at this time?
Well, I'm all about improving the line of communication between the Board of Health and Board of Supervisors. Obviously, there were some issues, and I think we're working through those. But it's, I guess, would this be a position you'd be interested in, Ann?
It is. It doesn't have to be me. I mean, there are plenty of things that I am doing, but I do consider it a priority and something that I do know some points of connection because of the health, the positions that I think my family have. So there's probably information that others would not have necessarily access to because of the work that my children do in the medical community.
Okay. I would be comfortable making the motion, I guess, for you to be that liaison. Currently, my schedule is pretty full, and I guess I'd like to have a little more information before taking on that role. So I would pass on it if that would be an option, but I would definitely entertain you being that liaison. I guess I'd ask Jay's opinion on that if he'd want it, or.
No, I'm happy to second your motion to have Supervisor McDonough be that liaison. So I will officially second that. And then if you want to jump into discussion, we can do that, Chair.
We should have further discussion. I appreciate that there's a motion and a second appointing me as the liaison to the Board of Health, but I do think we need to be sure among us as colleagues, what is our expectation? And so open it up to just some more discussion.
Yeah, I think just the sum would be, obviously we're all experienced and professionals, and it's not our first meeting we've been to. So I'm sure overall, those issues will resolve itself. I would just like to make sure that, Supervisor McDonough as a liaison, that you would momentarily, or maybe that's the wrong word, when you would every now and then mention that, you're not speaking for the Board of Supervisors, you are speaking as a supervisor. Because sometimes the public does miss that, and we have all strong voices and we have the title of supervisor, and we're just one more vote away from having a majority. And so that'd be my only request. so that people understand that it is, you know, one really good opinion, and it's a good opinion of the, or voice of a supervisor, but it's not necessarily the board of supervisors making that final decision.
I would agree with that. That'd be fine.
I would agree with that as well. And I think I would put that under transparency, that we need to be transparent in all the boards and commissions we're on, that we're never speaking for the Board of Supervisors. Even in general correspondence, I don't presume to be speaking for us. I'm speaking for me, and the only action that we take as a group is the action that we take here. I think we're all in agreement about that.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? There's a motion and a second to appoint Ann McDonough as the liaison to the Board of Health. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for your trust. And if it doesn't work, I'll be the first to say it doesn't work. Open vacancies. I believe this is included as a list. Is there anything that is noted for us to take particular attention to here? Did anyone see anything that's, I guess I'll make a comment about the Equal Opportunity Committee. In our budget discussions, Dawn Sherman indicated that would be kind of an equity committee, perhaps. I would like to have that committee drawn out onto possible separate discussion at a future board meeting, because if it is going to be more of an equity committee, then I think we want to go about the business of getting some individuals on it. Right now, it's there's one gentleman who serves on that committee. So I would look to see that maybe being pulled out at a future meeting. And for me, that might be within the next 90 days. I want to get clear of budget and get, I'd like to get some key hires made for the county as well before we give something for Dawn Sherman to turn her attention to. Anybody else share that thought about the Equal Opportunity Committee?
I guess I lost my sheet where the description of that was at.
There isn't a clear description. That's one of the things we would need,
Right.
need to address.
Yeah. I think do we have one member? Is that correct?
Yes, we have one gentleman.
Yeah. One member and 11 vacancies. So
Right.
yeah, it needs obviously a lot of work and some attention if it's going to have an impact and be a, you know, a board and commission that's active. How exactly we get there, I guess I'm unclear, but we do have good, smart people at the county that do these types of admin things. So I think with proper direction, we can and obviously the will to do it, we can get more members on there and have them actually function as a regularly scheduled, operated commission.
Is it something we want to address in this calendar year, just to begin some more detailed conversations? I guess that's what I'd just like to know. You know, it's going to be small steps. We're not going to make probably great strides or hit home runs, but we need to get about the business of this if we want to have the discussion.
I would say we should make hay while we have staff. So to mix a metaphor. So I would think, you know, if we have staff and Ed Raber and others that can lean forward with this, I would see it as one of the items that I would want to check off the list between now and July 1st.
So we'll be making more appointments at the end of June, right, Ed? Hopefully
Actually,
we get something.
Right, at the quarter, we're going to have some more appointments. But we have continued to receive lots of applications for these open vacancies. And I think at the quarter, so I'm not exactly sure when, we'll look into that to get it on the agenda, the open appointments that we've been receiving vacant applications for. But then again, I want to have this one. Anyway, I'm repeating myself. So we'll pull this back onto the agenda specifically as the Equal Opportunity Committee to do some more work on this year. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
There are no personnel requisitions and there are no tabled and pending items. So that brings us to public comments. This is the time if citizens wish to address the board about items or concerns that they have that are not on the agenda for this meeting. If they wish to wave their hand or indicate they'd like to speak, we just ask that they limit their comments to 3 minutes. And of course, if it's not on our agenda, then we can't deliberate or take any action. We'll wait for any hands to go up. Carla has, no, do we have anyone? That's me. Anyone wishing to speak? I don't see anything.
Supervisor McDonough, I do not have anyone indicating in chat or on the screen that they would like to make a public comment.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I will make a motion to recess till 10:05 then.
I will second.
Motion is second to recess until 10:05. We'll start back up with our COVID update. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Supervisor Wickham, are you with us? I don't see him back on the screen.
There he is.
There he is. All right, we'll go back into session for our 10 o'clock COVID update. And we do have a lengthy message in chat from the Telegraph reporter. Do we have, is Patrice going to be with us? It's my understanding she may not be. I know we have Tom Berger. Ed, do you know who's coming and what the status is? Tom Berger, are you present with us? I see no pictures except the three of us. Well, let's start here. Yes,
Hi,
there,
and
Tom.
I'm still with you. Patrice, they have a standing 10 o'clock meeting with the higher ed. So
Right.
they're on that right now.
Right. Here's the situation. The chat, I think, summarizes actually quite a bit what's happening, at least to me personally. Emails coming in this morning. Citizens are very confused about how to get a vaccine, and our senior population is quite anxious. I know in my family, someone got an appointment at Hy-Vee, but they spent about 36 hours solid, rapidly dialing and rapidly trying to email at Hy-Vee. So, I mean, if you have the fortitude and the ability to be persistent around the clock, you can maybe get a vaccine if you're over age 65, but I don't understand. The rest of it is murky. And that's, those are the questions that people have. How do we get vaccinated for age 65 or above?
Right, and they're still a priority group. The question is, we're not getting enough vaccines for the providers. They'll be contacted by their regular providers if they have one. And I think one of them's doing it by age, and I'm not sure how the other hospital. I mean, this is probably more of a question for Patrice or Stacy, but I know next week the allocations will come up, and I think Patrice addressed that in the written report as well. But when the allocations come in and then they go to the hospitals, then they're contacting their patients that are 65 and older as the priority group and getting through there. Now the other ones that are going through like Walgreens and Hy-Vee, that all comes direct from the federal program. So that's in a above and beyond what we're getting from their local. This week's allocation is going to finish up the K-12 teachers and staff, and then also focus on the child care providers. So next week allocations will be sent hopefully to the hospitals to continue to work on the 65 and plus. It's kind of depending on what we get and what their capacity is to administer them is where they're at now. But that's what I know, but I don't have a lot of the direct information with the, because I'm not the public health specialist that have the access to the websites and stuff. But from my participating in the meetings, that's what I know. And there's still, we're still working on, trying to figure out the homebound people who can't get out and go to the vaccine sites or to their doctor's office or the clinics, as well as those that do not have a provider. So.
Right, and I know we're missing some links to individuals who are frontline healthcare providers, but they're not registered through any agency. They do private work. Those folks are almost impossible to identify, and there's some number of them, and I know we're working on that as well. Trying to find who the points of contact are for those providers for folks who are disabled, as well as the disabled population. They, speaking with Goodwill Industries, they're waiting to be put on the list of with their disabled population. So there's quite a task before us still. Just seems like it's fraying a bit. I mean,
it's such a large population, you know, to get through when you're only getting 1,950 vaccines a week. So
right.
It's difficult.
And I've just been asking citizens to just, you know, stay hopeful and be kind.
Yeah.
You know,
It's so hopefully that's things that they're discussing, and hopefully get our arms wrapped around it. But I would suggest Ben can follow up through Randy and get to, but there's not much more information, I don't believe at this time, but Randy, get him hooked up with either Patrice or Mary Rose. But
one of the questions that's come in and been a little bit persistent, I've got to say, is why don't we have some kind of system for individuals who wish to be vaccinated? They're over age 65. They're part of the disabled community. Why don't we have a system for them to call in and get on the list to identify themselves?
and I think the governor is trying to get that through Microsoft. They awarded that contract, you know, to do a statewide registration system, but I believe that's a couple weeks out yet. So yeah, I don't know if the capacity is there. The best bet to start with was to go through the healthcare providers, because they know who would be most medically fragile that would need the vaccine first. So
right. Did we ever talk about locally having any kind of a call system? Were we ever asked to do that? You know, we've been working on our plans of distribution, I think, since last July.
yeah,
And so
most of our call center, I mean, we've been focusing on the VNA and getting them extra assistance as needed. They're probably, you get they're up to date on what's going on to date as far as the vaccines, and they can answer the medical questions that most of the people have when they call. So at this point, they're doing a good job. They're not overwhelmed. And then we're watching that closely. If Stacy's going to need some additional assistance, we'll definitely be trying to get that for her, you know.
You know, I have to just confess to you, Tom, a few seniors who have contacted me with high anxiety, they're worried they're being overlooked. I told them to contact their provider, just point blank. I mean, they might need a health screening for a brain health issue. The anxiety is so high among some of our seniors who are homebound. So I know that's not the answer that we're supposed to give, but they need to know that they can reach out to somebody. And, you know, VNA's phones aren't being answered right off the draw anymore.
Yeah, I can follow up on the phone situation, but I know that Stacy did say that they do have the people down there. So I mean, some of the questions are requiring lengthy conversations, though, unfortunately, you know. I'm hoping that's that it'll be, you know, as we move forward through the tiers, getting the school staff done, and then still continuing to prioritize the 65 and plus. I mean, that's what's going to have to happen, and that's what the CDC is saying, as well as our local IMT. So
How big is the school system? I know it's more than just the educators. It's the entire employer, isn't it?
yeah, there's anybody that would have contact, obviously, in the school system. So that's quite a few, but they should be finished up with the people that want the vaccines this week with this week's allocation, as well as getting a big chunk of the child care providers too.
Harley, you're muted.
Sorry, what was the allocation for this week, Tom?
I'm sorry, Harley, what was that?
What was the allocation for this week?
It's the same, the 1,950.
Oh, okay. It never got cut back or anything then?
No, it did not get cut back. And also I know there's been a lot of news with the 80%. And I know Stacy and Sam were working on an easy way to try to figure out which vaccines are getting in the arms, to make sure we're meeting that 80%. And so far we have been, really. We don't have anybody operating at the pod this week because or today. But they'll be back in full swing tomorrow and Thursday, Friday. So because the vaccines are all administered or spoken for, so.
Good.
And then, the hopefully it sounds like there may be, which we don't have the control over, going to Mercy being part of the one association that's getting direct. So hopefully they're keep plugging away at through their pharmacies and keep getting the allocations that'll always assist us in getting the 65 and older done as well.
How many people have gone through the pod? Do you know that yet? Or?
I wouldn't have exact numbers. I know on Thursday we had 3 providers working out there, and it was probably close to 600.
Good.
So,
Good.
yeah. And then with the weather kind of screwed us up, so they had some cancellations. So it's quite the juggling act to watch them, to make sure they don't open the vials, too much that they'd have to, we're not going to waste any, obviously. So.
Right.
With the cancellations and the weather, it played a little bit. So I think Stacy and the VNA went out yesterday and finished up some too.
Good. Glad to hear.
Mm-hmm. It's working pretty smooth out there so far.
I'm sure there's a few things you have to work through yet, but
yeah,
that's still positive 600 people through there. So
yeah.
Appreciate what you're doing.
Tom, can you mention, just for the kind of the record, if you know the 3 service providers, medical providers that are currently at the pod?
Yeah, right now, tomorrow, Unity Point Finley will be out there, and they'll be doing some of the 65 and older that they have vaccines for. And then Thursday will be when we start with the school districts, again, the school staff. So that'll be VNA has been working like 10 to 6 out there. Unity Point Finley will be there Thursday and Friday from 8 to 5. And then Grand River Medical will also be out there on Thursday and Friday. And next week, we're looking at medical associates joining the pod out there too. So that'll be 4 different providers. And they're hoping to get quite a few people through in a day's time.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask, we have a mayor, Sandy Gassman, mayor of Epworth, is, I know, on the Zoom room, if she would have any questions or anything she'd like to share as far as a mayor's perspective or questions. If she would like to do that, I would be happy to give her some time.
I think mostly you've answered most of the questions. The questions here are the same as the questions everywhere. How can I get the vaccine? How do I get signed up? And you've pretty much answered that. I mean, it's just a matter of waiting, and I know I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm 65. I can get the vaccine. When are you going to give it to me? It's one of those where we're just waiting.
Thank you, Sandy. Is there any further discussion about the COVID update?
Can I just add a comment on the mask mandate?
Sure.
I just want to make sure that it's understood that we are not able to enforce the mask mandate. I don't know where I sit as far as whether it's good or bad to have a mandate that you can't enforce, but it's just not physically possible for us to enforce it. So just so people understand that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sandy, for that comment. Sheriff Kennedy is on the line too, so he would have heard your comments as well. Ed, do you have any update for when is there a public hearing tomorrow night for the Board of Health?
The Board of Health is going to meet tonight for a regular meeting, and they will.
Not tonight, tomorrow night.
They all kind of run together. But yes, in fact, it is tomorrow night, Wednesday. They are scheduled to have a regular meeting, and they will, I believe, take comments from the public at that. And they have also scheduled a public hearing for the following week, February 24th. And it's after that one that they may discuss and consider action to recommend the resolution that they voted on at their last meeting last Thursday evening. They may also consider any changes to that resolution based on their own feelings or input and feedback that they've received through this public participation process.
So the Board of Supervisors might need to have a special meeting, perhaps on the 26th, which is a Friday.
It is possible if they take action at their meeting on the 24th that evening, in order to expedite the action on their recommendation. We may be looking to the supervisors to have a what you might call a special one issue Board of Supervisors meeting later that week, which would be the 25th or 26th.
Harley, the reason for that just is that if we can have the meeting, the county papers go to publication, and they would need to have that be on Friday and maybe Monday morning at the very latest. So if we waited for our regularly scheduled board meeting, we would miss the publication for that Wednesday, the 3rd. And any action we take for this would not be effective until the publication. So we might need to meet early if we're going to take action. Do you understand what I mean? Otherwise, we'll miss another week. It won't publish for another week.
Right.
Mary, Mary was just on screen. I didn't know if she had anything she wanted to share there too.
Yeah, I want Supervisor McDonough, the deadline to have in the paper is 8 a.m. Monday morning. So that's before we even have our meetings. That's why I send everything to the paper on the Friday before.
The only other, I believe that's Sheriff Kennedy there. The only other question I would have for the supervisors or anybody on the call that you've looked at the states, the governor's coronavirus.iowa.gov website, where they have some new information about vaccination levels that you can select by county and see how many people in a county have been vaccinated in that county, or a total number of vaccinations. Of course, people from other counties happen to work in Dubuque County and at some of the institutions that Tom Berger was just noting. And so there are people that have been vaccinated in Dubuque County that live in neighboring counties, including in Wisconsin and Illinois. So if you've seen that and are familiarizing yourself with the the numbers on there, that's great. I'd be happy to share that if you care to. But that's a great way daily to keep track of how many vaccinations have been made in Dubuque County.
I don't know. I mean,
It is a good reference point. I have yet to try to share that with my 84-year-old dad.
Look at all the
He's
people that
just-
are not you.
Yeah, he's just
Yes.
not going to be able to follow it that way.
Yes.
and we said that
Okay, do we have anything further for the update? Anything we would like to have be addressed next time? Otherwise, we're looking for a motion to recess for 4 minutes.
So moved.
I will second.
Motion is second to recess until 10:30. All in favor, say aye.
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 We're in recess. Thank you. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning. How are you, Ann?
I am well. Thank
Am
you
I
for
queued
being
up
here.
yet, or you got somebody else in front of me here?
Oh, no, you'll be next when we go back into session, which should be
Oh,
in just
okay.
a moment or two. So,
Hi, Jay.
Hey, good morning, Rick.
Everybody staying warm? Gee, it looks sort of cold where you're at, Jay.
Harvesting ice on the Mississippi.
Supervisor McDonough?
Yes,
Yeah,
Mary?
this is Mary. I just wanted to clarify on the publishing. I sent it to the paper on Friday to make sure it beats the deadline, but I don't send anything until the board approves it. So at the meetings on Monday, you approve it, and then I make sure on Friday that it's to the paper by Friday.
Right.
So I beat that Monday deadline, but nothing goes until the Board of Supervisors approves the publication. I just wanted to clarify that.
No, that's a good point, Mary. You keep us on the straight and narrow very well. I appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you.
Right, and there's Supervisor Pothoff. So we'll go back into session. We have a work session with a guest. Rick Dickinson's here from Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, and you have 2 grant applications that we wanted to have you. I know it's great to hear about economic development and all the things you're doing, but that's one of the reasons we wanted to have you with us today, Rick, was to look at the 2 applications as well. But I know you probably have a broader presentation you'd like to give.
Thank you, Supervisor McDonough, and to the other supervisors. We appreciate the time to be with you. My name is Rick Dickinson, and I'm the president of Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, and I reside at 205 Hill Street in Dubuque, Iowa, and our office is located at 900 Jackson here in Dubuque. We have 2 requests into the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors for your consideration for FY 21-22, the fiscal year beginning July 1. This is actually the 5th ask of what was a capital campaign conducted 5 years ago to fund Greater Dubuque Development Corporation through 2022. This would be the last request of the board for that commitment. Now, when I say commitment, governmental bodies are not bound to pledges. There could be intent, but as a membership of city councils or boards of supervisors change, they are not bound to pledges of previous boards. So I want to make that clear, especially since Supervisor Pothoff is new to the board. You're bound to nothing, sir. We sing for our supper each year and answer questions, hopefully to the satisfaction of the board. The 2 requests we have, the $112,000 is to fund Greater Dubuque Development Corporation as part of that Greater Dubuque 2022 capital campaign. That goes to our operating budget. The funding for that goes a little bit everywhere in what we do, and I'll get into what we do in a minute. The second allocation is $38,000, and that's committed to Dubuque Works. And Dubuque Works is a combination of funding from the county, the Dubuque Racing Association, the city of Dubuque, and it funds programs like Opportunity Dubuque. Over the last 9 years, Opportunity Dubuque has provided certificates of training at no charge to the student for over 700 individuals. Those 700 plus individuals have about an 88% success rate of gainful employment upon completion of those programs. And that's only one of the programs that's funded by Dubuque Works, but that 38,000 goes to Dubuque Works. So the annual budget for Greater Dubuque Development in the application, we told you that in the past year, the budget for the year was $2 million. Actually, the number for this fiscal year is $1,963,833. We're projecting about a $350,000 deficit with that expense line item based on worst case scenario anticipations of revenue cuts. I'm pleased to inform you that mid-year with 7 months in, we have not experienced those cuts. And so even though we pared back some expenses, some as cost saving measures, others just the reality of the pandemic and things that we would have funded, like having tour guides give tours of the community in vehicles. We're not doing that because of the pandemic. Distinctively Dubuque classes welcoming newcomers and providing them the opportunity to meet other newcomers, develop connection to our community, and realize what wonderful things are available in our county. We're not doing that because of the pandemic. We've come up with virtual equivalents, but they're not really equivalent. They're just an attempt to put together as best we can virtual tours, virtual connection as it relates to newcomer services. That's also funded, by the way, by the $38,000 that goes into the $250,000 plus budget of the organization. Greater Dubuque Development does a number of things, but I will categorize them in three buckets. First of all, business retention and expansion. We have 1 full-time, 2 part-time folks that reach out to the business community. We have a sit down with over 300 businesses every year. We call it our Info Action Program. And that has a number of different tentacles. For example, the recent ask we had from the incident management team to reach out to businesses to collect for them data that they were looking for. We sent out the email to 1,200 businesses, combining our database, the database of the Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce, the Dyersville Area Chamber of Commerce. We sent that information out to those businesses with a cover letter in the email, the questionnaire that was designed by the incident management team, and some frequently asked questions to help businesses sort of think about where things are going in regard to vaccinations. We set up then a Google form response for the employers to fill out. And I think as of this morning, 183 businesses have responded to that inquiry that was sent out Friday morning. That was put together by our staff, Dave Lyons, our point on all things COVID. Emily Graves put together the Google form collection tool. And Karen Kleeser merged the contact lists from the 2 chambers in our office to send that out. Business retention expansion, I think, is the premier program we have because it tells us what's going on in individual businesses. It also tells us what's going on a macro level, so we can work with public officials like yourselves about addressing issues of the day that make us a preferred community, both for business and for talent, to have this be a county of choice for them. The other thing we do, the other bucket would be workforce solutions. So that includes managing the job board, accessDubuqueJobs.com, which is a partnership between our office and the Woodward Communications Telegraph Herald. That is currently there are about 1,650 jobs posted on that site. We have about 300 resumes posted on the site. And it's a major revenue source to fund our other workforce operations. We have newcomer services, as I mentioned earlier, that includes tours and classes, and then posting on the web information that's important to folks considering Dubuque as their new home and a new place for employment. And we work very closely with the HR community, of which about 100 employers have HR professionals on staff. And Anna Rolling in our office is the the vice chair, incoming chair for next year of SHRM, the Tri-State Human Resources Association. We work very closely with the HR community to connect them to the Access Dubuque site and to work on issues of the day as it relates to talent creation. And of course, have a major partnership with Northeast Iowa Community College with their Opportunity Dubuque program, working closely with the SBDC and ECIA on the COVID-19 business helpline, and trying to collaborate as best we can to squeeze every amount of juice we can out of that we do. And then we have the other bucket, which is sort of the other things that we do, including broadband expansion in the county, headed up by Dave Lyons, renewable energy projects that include capturing methane at the Water Resource Recovery Center and now working with the landfill to collect that methane that was flared off, converting it to usable natural gas, biogas, selling it back to the system, saving money, improving air quality. The Alliant Energy solar array, which is on the west side, about 22 acres, and then about 3 acres here off of Highway 61, 151, was put together by our office in collaboration with AY McDonald, Alliant Energy, and the city of Dubuque. And we are working on a project with Alliant Energy and the city of Dubuque currently that would be a model for solar storage, battery storage of solar power, and conversion to electrical vehicles, small vehicles for the city, in a pretty fascinating project that will incorporate the arrays that are already up, the creation of additional solar collection on municipal facilities, the establishment of charge stations on city property, and the use of that Alliant array and the local arrays to pipe juice to the batteries to be a source for the energy for the electric vehicles that would be purchased by the city in the coming years. So those are a few of the things we do. Our ask is 150 total, 38,000 on the Dubuque Works component, and 112,000 for basic operations for Greater Dubuque Development Corporation. Your funding is approximately 7%, but it's a critical component. Public funding for our organization runs about 40% total. And then the balance of our funding comes from the private sector, from our partners, financial institutions, employers large and small, and from accessdubukejobs.com. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have on any of those items.
Do we have any questions for Rick?
I have nothing.
Rick, this is Jay. I'll have to throw out, I know we've talked about this and it's still one of my puzzles, and so maybe you can just comment, but just related to workforce, our unemployment levels, and just the availability of workforce since the pandemic. What's our current state of play, and what have you learned in the last 12 months?
Well, it's been an interesting year to learn a lot of things. First of all, I should mention too that even though our title is Greater Dubuque, we stand at the ready to assist every community in Dubuque County, and anything we have is also available to our adjoining counties in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa, because we do believe economic development is a team sport, and it's not about geopolitical areas, it's about a region. And Dubuque is the hub of the wheel of that region, and we hope that we are seen as value to all those folks. And we have a number of partners in doing that, other chambers, other economic development groups. To answer your question, Jay, we are experiencing a jobless recovery from the pandemic. We hit the low point of the pandemic as related to layoffs and unemployment, meaning high unemployment, in April of last year. We were probably in the 12 to 13%, but by governmental definition, but in fact we were closer to 20% unemployment in April and May before things started to come back. When you look at the most data we have, which is December of 2020, we were back to a 3.6% unemployment rate, which was only 1 point ahead of previous year. And it appeared to those that didn't look behind the curtain that, well, we're back to near normal, but that belies the facts. Today, when I say today, based on the most recent data we have, which was again December, we'll have an update for January, probably late next week. But based on December, there are 5,000 fewer people living and working in Dubuque County in December of 2020 versus December of 2019. 5,000 people. These are not folks who are chronically unemployed. They were people who a year ago were employed in our market, and today they are not. Only 1,800 of those 5,000 people are receiving any unemployment benefits. And so we have 3,200 folks that have fallen out of the job market and they have no benefits. We believe that a lion's share of that population are the folks that had to make very difficult decisions based on the pandemic as related to caring for elementary age children who are at home because of the hybrid public school system. Folks that had to make difficult choices because of pre-existing conditions, perhaps their age. A disproportionate are women, single parent head of household. And an example of that is our new applications for unemployment as we speak are running double of what normal unemployment claims would be, meaning instead of around 90, it's more between 180 and 220. But a more alarming statistic is that normal unemployment claims in any given month of any given year, interestingly, run 20% female, 80% male. That's a reflection of the cyclical nature of construction being seasonal, for example, and other things, but it's also an example of a systemic disparity between men and women in the workplace. But more importantly is 60% of the new applications for unemployment are now female instead of 20. And so we are seeing a major shift and a significant impact of this pandemic on our workforce. So while we have 5,000 people who are not working that were working a year ago, they didn't leave, they're still here. In fact, maybe it has grown, migrating to our community because there's more opportunities here than in some others. While we have that 5,000 who are unemployed, we have 1,650 approximately jobs posted on access2dubujobs.com that are going unfilled. And it doesn't make sense, again, unless you think about why things are the way they are. And that is, we have jobs that are being created. We have people that still can't be freed up from caring for children or because of the issues of the pandemic not being vaccinated as yet. And we have a number of folks who will not have a job to go back to because their place of employment has closed, especially in the service sector and hospitality. And they may not have the skill sets for the jobs that are being created today. So we recently announced the Simmons Pet Food. They are hiring as we speak. They have over 40 positions posted on access2dubujobs.com now. They will have hired 137 by June and be operational in July, with another 130 jobs coming. They pay $20 an hour plus, but a lot of those 5,000 people who are unemployed may not be qualified or have the skill sets necessary. So that's where it's important that we upskill those folks to be eligible for that employment. We have a number of manufacturers that are going begging for employees. AY McDonald, Progressive Processing, Clower Manufacturing. All of these folks have open positions. They're having real difficulty recruiting because the people who are unemployed currently are unemployed for a reason. Not because they want to be, but because of life's choices given the pandemic, because they have to be. Sorry for that long summary, but that's sort of the state of the workforce as it exists right now, Jay.
I appreciate that insight and going a little second and third level as far as the details. And so I'm confident that with your staff and the partners that we have throughout the county, if anyone's going to figure it out, it'll be that team.
Well, I should point out, it's not unique to Dubuque. This is true. In fact, the chamber had what would they call it? Their forecast luncheon meeting, which was virtual this year, and they had Swenson. I forget Dr. Swenson's first name. He's a professor at Iowa State University, and he basically spoke of the jobless recovery that's existed across the state of Iowa. Interestingly, it's been the rural counties are harder hit than the metros, but that's been the case for the last decade. But it's definitely a serious situation, and so there are far more people in Iowa that have fallen out of the workforce than in nearly any other state of the union. And I think it has to do with policies and procedures. We're trying to make sure that we come out of that stronger than any other county based on the resources that we do have and the public-private partnerships that do exist. But it definitely is a challenge.
Rick and McDonough, I've just recently joined your board and am excited to be there on behalf of the county.
Thanks for that.
My question is, help me understand the funding that we provide to, the subject of these grants today.
Mhm.
How does that funding relate to the city of Dyersville? Is there a need for supervisors to also be funding the Dyersville economic development arm? I mean, can you help us understand that?
Well, in a perfect world, maybe to be experienced in the future, we need to have more of an umbrella organization that incorporates economic development organizations, chambers of commerce, other nonprofits like Travel Dubuque, Main Street, and others to be named, and maybe beyond the geopolitical area of Dubuque, similar to models that exist all over the country. In a way, what goes on in Dubuque County is an anomaly, in that they have these separate nonprofits who I think play very well together, but they are not under an umbrella where there is absolute coordination of all things. So it begs the question of Dyersville. Dyersville, we work very closely with the Dyersville Economic Development Group. In fact, they fund us. We work very closely with City of Dyersville. They fund us. When I say us, Greater Dubuque Development Corporation. We have a great working relationship with Jackie Ray, who heads up the ED group. And as evidence of the most recent collaboration with the Dyersville Chamber of Commerce in pushing out this information to provide information to the incident management team regarding essential workers, they were one of the first to sign up, and we merged those contact lists. I don't know if the Dyersville Economic Development Group has reached out to the board for funding. I do know that there is, I think, friendly competition. I think there is turf when you have separate entities that have separate funding mechanisms. Anything we have is available for any economic development group in the county, whether it be Dyersville or the volunteers in Farley or Piasta or Cascade or any of our communities. Some use it more than others. The board of supervisors does have one appointment available. In addition to a member of the board of supervisors being on the board of directors of Greater Dubuque, they have one appointment that they can select as they see fit to serve on the board, and you have done that. The board is quite large, 45 members. Rightly about 2 years ago, the board decided that the board of supervisors, the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors, should not only have a slot on the board of directors, but should have a slot on the executive board, which I think was the right thing to do, to be front and center on even the minutia of what goes on at Greater Dubuque. So I don't know if they've asked you for the money. I mean, I know you get a lot of asks. I mean, back when the dinosaurs walked the earth, I was a supervisor in Jackson County. I understand that you have a lot of people that show up, and oftentimes we have a handout, one to shake and the other one to ask. So I don't know if they're out there, but certainly economic development it's expensive if it's done right, and we're not making widgets. We're hiring talented people to try to find ways of creating talent and expanding employment opportunities, and to do whatever we can to work with the public sector and the private sector to make sure that our communities and our counties are counties and communities of choice.
Appreciate the answer. It's really something I've thought, even since before I was a supervisor, just that how do the different economic development groups work together, and then funding something in Dyersville isn't taking away from something at GDDC. It is if we choose to do that, it's funding economic development throughout the county. It's
Well,
not one or the other. It can
yeah.
be targeted.
There is cross-pollination too. For example, we're one of the large, Greater Dubuque Development is one of the largest funders of Prosperity Eastern Iowa.
Okay.
Not because Prosperity Eastern Iowa brings something to the table to Greater Dubuque Development, but that ECIA formulated Prosperity Eastern Iowa to assist all economic development groups. And we basically fund that so that they can provide that assistance to all economic development groups. So it's, you know, they're silos, but they're silos that communicate with each other. I don't think they're communicating or collaborating as well as we absolutely can and should. But I think that will come with time. And sometimes that comes with changes in personnel when you have an opening, and then you think about how, well, instead of just replacing Jane or Joe, is there something differently we should take a look at? And I think that'll happen as there's transitions in all these different organizations. And funding will drive that as well. So if all the funders say, you know what, I think you guys can do better, then guess what? People are going to sit down and start thinking about how they can do better.
Rick, this is Harley.
Yes.
Do you work with the Northeast Iowa Workforce Development region at all for training?
Well, we, Supervisor Potoff, we fund the Opportunity Dubuque program through NICC. The Northeast Iowa group is, we don't fund them and they are not funding us. I think there's some collaboration between them and NICC in addition to the funding we provide. Right now we fund both tuition subsidy for about 14 different certificates of training that range from welding to phlebotomy. And then we also fund a career coach to reach out into the low-income neighborhoods to try to develop personal relationships to help people and coach people into education and then to employment. Our state workforce agency, Iowa Works, is a mess. They're wonderful people that work at Iowa Works, the Iowa Department of Workforce Development. But there was a time when every county had an office, and now only, I think there's 10 or 12 offices in metro areas, and Dubuque's fortunate to have one. But on top of that, their staffing has been cut to the point where now that we have a major demand on connection to people that are looking for work, there literally is no possibility for one-on-one service to someone looking for work in Iowa. If you're given an email address and a website, and everyone hopes for the best, but there is no coaching, there is no counseling, there is no one-on-one, not just because of the pandemic, but because it basically reduced staff to the point that it's a virtual connection to the unemployed population. And it's very difficult to have people make life-changing decisions about taking a class and taking risk in doing that and finding the resources to cover the cost of that, and then to find the employment, and then included in that is daycare, childcare, transportation, housing. So that particular agency we don't fund, and they're not funding us. And I think Iowa Works is in trouble, especially since we hit this pandemic, when this very pared back organization is now responsible for just a tremendous amount of work just in the administration of the programs they have, with no direct contact and counseling for folks that need that counseling.
As I'm looking more at how are we getting the link between the people that need the training to get the jobs that are available, to get them to that training? Where's that link at? Get these people the training they need? You know, how are we finding these people?
But that's the $60,000 question. So There was a time 20 years ago when the answer to that question was two agencies were instrumental in that. The Iowa Department of Human Services and the Iowa Works program, the Iowa Department of Workforce Development. They had staff online. When 20 years ago, you graduated from college, you could go to your economic development office or your workforce development office. You would sit down with a counselor, and your counselor would say, "Hey, what's your name?" "Rick Dickinson." "What's your background?" "I just graduated from college." "What would you like to do?" "Oh, I don't know. What's out there?" And then they would connect that individual to the jobs that were posted. And they literally were a coach, a career coach, to make sure that there was a good outcome with that individual, understanding what the opportunities were in that community. The Department of Human Services had one-on-one counseling, trying to understand on a micro basis what's going on in that individual's life and that individual's family's life. What are the hurdles to them breaking the cycle of poverty? What programs are available to help them do that? But again, we've gutted those offices by number of offices, and we've gutted those offices by staffing of those offices. So it's put, I think, a serious, well, first of all, it's eliminated services to a huge component of our population. And it's put the burden, in my view, on local governments, cities and counties to try to overcome what has been damaged by state policies. So let's use one example, Opportunity Dubuque. When we had the first 200 participants in Opportunity Dubuque, we analyzed the individuals that had graduated and were now employed. At that point, it was like a 94% success rate on employment. And of the first 200 graduates, I think only 4 of them were minority, and a disproportionate were male. And so we looked at that and we said, well, how can we change that? Why is that happening? Well, we came to the determination rightly that it's because minority populations and women in the workforce weren't informed of the project. And so you couldn't promote it via print or sending out an email. Somebody had to talk to somebody. So that's when we hired then an individual to go out into the communities, the lower income communities, census tracts 1 and 5 in Dubuque, for example, and worked with those populations and informed them about the opportunity and helped them walk through the hurdles of getting there. And the next 500 graduates, 35% are minority candidates. And the success rate of placement in employment is 88%. And it's just as solid in the minority population as it is with the white population. But somebody had to get off their butts, get out from behind their desk, get on the street, knock on a door, and visit with people. Now, it's challenging with the pandemic, but still we're able to do that. And so the answer to your question, I believe Supervisor Potoff, is that we need people to meet with people, the programs to be in place, remove the obstacles of funding from the quotient, and that then provides education, which provides gainful employment, which provides home ownership, and brings families out of poverty. And I think that's the direction certainly that we're taking in this region uniquely, and I think it's a model for others, and we need to double down on what we're doing because we're not yet doing enough.
Okay. Do you work with like the Dream Center or the Fountain of Youth on any of that, or?
Absolutely. So we actually fund Dubuque Works, funds Fountain of Youth, Dream Center, the Multicultural Family Center. We were very involved with Fountain of Youth in its beginnings, working with Caprice and his board, and trying to nurture that program, which I think is a wonderful program. I think the Dream Center is a model for nationally for the way to really be engaged with children and families. We work with them not only in supporting them financially, but encouraging them to be part of that connection to the unemployed, underemployed community, to be referrals to Opportunity Dubuque, to get that training at NICC and to connect to a job through access-to-BuqueJobs.com. So it's not just one thing, it's this chain of events that's required to have someone who is living in generational poverty and to get them to a point of the next generation will not have that same experience. And so, yeah, those are, I'm glad you mentioned those three, those by name, and Multicultural Family Center as well. There are other nonprofits that are doing great work too. But one of the challenges we have is we can sit here and we can create all the programs and try to amass funding both in the public sector and private sector. But at some point, somebody has to talk to somebody and to get to know them, where they live and what's going on in their world, and build confidence in them to utilize the programs that are in place. Here's an example of what hasn't worked as well as we all wanted it to work. The county and the city both funded an initiative back in 2019 where we identified one of the barriers of women entering the Opportunity to Dubuque training program being their inability to afford childcare, to have affordable, quality, available childcare. So we collected funding from that, some of which from the county, some of which from the city, in Opportunity Dubuque. And we've not yet allocated those funds, even though we thought the funding would cover us for a year and a half. We still have funding left. It's because it wasn't just about daycare. It was about the ability to coach and counsel. It was about transportation. It was about safe housing. So many of these variables, and now we're looking at changing up how we utilize those funds, still with a focus of having single parent head of household, typically female, be eligible and utilize the training and have gainful employment as a result. But how can those dollars be used to go beyond childcare and actually do other address the other issues in addition to childcare that are keeping these folks in a cycle of poverty. So it doesn't always work. It's usually because, yeah, you were right about this thing, but it's also this, and this that you have to take care of. And it's not just about doling out the bucks. That's just that's gone in a heartbeat. It's about how do you figure out a way of connecting all the dots and really become engaged in these people's lives. For us, a Greater Dubuque Development, in order to create a contributing, talented employee to an employer in our market, because our work is not social work, our work is economic development. But social work gets you to that success point.
That was the connection I was referring to, I guess, like Fountain Youth, Dream Center, Multicultural Center, to get the people where they need to be, to get that handout, to get somebody up and moving forward.
I agree completely. I can't wait for this damn pandemic to be over, because one of the big obstacles is one-on-one. I think this is a face game sport. It's not about. I hate these virtual meetings. I hate the customer service to be web-based even before the pandemic. I just do. I mean, and I know I'm old-fashioned. I'm 67 years old. I don't think anything supplants being face-to-face with someone, seeing them, hearing them, sharing with them, understanding what's going on in the world, and trying to be impactful of it. So the sooner we get back to that, especially in this community where we have resources to have people meet with folks one-on-one, the sooner we'll be able to address these issues in a more meaningful way, I think.
Thank you, Rick. I really appreciate your time. And I just want to bring it back to the Board of Supervisors, to my colleagues. One of the purposes of having Rick come today was to address two of the purchase of service agreements that we have pending before us. And so that would be for the $112,000 to the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation and $38,000 to Dubuque Works. If we're comfortable that we have the information we need, I would suggest that we consider taking action on those two funding requests. As we've put the money into the budget, but we do need to take our action formally if we're going to approve of those funding requests.
I would definitely support that. And so I'll make a motion to include in our funding for the upcoming fiscal year, $112,000 for Greater Dubuque Development, along with $38,000 for Greater Dubuque Development in the Dubuque Works program, for a total of $150,000 for the upcoming fiscal 22 budget.
I will second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the funding request for Greater Dubuque Development Corporation as presented by Supervisor Wickham. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate your partnership and your leadership on the economic issues of the day. So,
Well, thank you for that support, and most importantly, having walked the earth with the dinosaurs as supervisor long ago. Thank you for your service. I know it's a challenging job, more this year than at any time. So thanks for what you all do. Appreciate it.
well, thank you for those kind words too.
Thanks, Rick.
Very good.
Betcha.
All right. The last item on our agenda is our scheduled time for boards and commissions updates. So it's information to each other, and that I just want to hold a little bit of space to see if anyone has anything that we want to make mention of. I actually have two things. They are both future items that just to draw attention to. And Supervisor Wickham, one relates directly to you. I think you would want you to be aware. I am going to be on a phone meeting today with Abby Degenhart from Dubuque County Early Childhood, just making my own inquiry and just learning more about what they're working on. And I know you sit on the board there. I just want you to be aware of that. It's a priority for me, childcare. And so I just am looking for more information to just kind of assess where we are as a community and if there's anything that I can be helpful about. So I'm not suggesting you want to join in that call, but just wanted you to be aware that I am just trying to better my education about that issue.
Well, I appreciate the heads up. I think it's good to get that involvement, and I think they'll do hopefully a good job presenting Dubuque County Early Childhood, and got some good initiatives. They've got some funding that we've appropriated for specifically the child care providers, and then they've got many other programs that they do as far as parents as teachers, which are a good program, and a whole host of other, I shouldn't say a whole host, but 3 or 4 other service providers that DCEC funds that might give you a better insight on their whole programming.
Right. They had a grant request before us last year and this year as well for their particular childcare program. I am going to ask her about that, but it's more just to fund the overall issues of childcare, not wanting to, I just need to be more aware. So last night there was a legislators childcare Zoom, and it was with Senator Pam Yocum, and Harley and I both ended up on that. It was good to see you there, Harley, on Zoom, just generally listening to comments from childcare providers. Heard things I'd never heard before. Just building again that knowledge about what issues our childcare communities are facing. So it's good.
The child care resource and referral, it was a good informational meeting.
I don't know how we got invited to that.
Yeah, DCEC works closely with Tara Roddick and her group of that referral program. They actually provide funding to them.
And then the other point of information I would have for us is that Thursday night is the mayor's meeting, and that's on Zoom. And I think, Harley, both you and I indicated we were going to be in attendance. That always presents an interesting thing because they want to speak to us about topics. So I might step back and let you just go by yourself. That sounds stupid to phrase it that way, but with the mask mandate pending, Harley, I think they may want to share directly, and it will create I think a transparency problem if we're both there, because it's it's the same thing. We're inadvertently forming a quorum, and we would, you get tied in what you can say because we can't have any debate or discussion, amongst us, and the appearance that we're doing that, out of the public view. So do you want to lead on that this week, and I will jump in at another time at another
That's
quorum
fine.
meeting?
Whatever you want to do, Ann. You're the chair. You tell me. If
Well,
you
I
want
don't
it,
want
it's
to.
fine. No.
I don't want to assign you another meeting. One of us should be in attendance. So
I will be in
Well,
attendance.
I had planned to attend as well. I do have a conservation meeting that starts a little further into that meeting, the mayor's meeting. So that's conflicted me a couple other meetings, but I had planned to attend as well. But it's good conversation. So I'm there's, I think the supervisors through ECIA helped, create the forum to begin with. And so I never wanted to see it that it was our meeting. It definitely is a mayor's meeting. And I think if we, are invited or have components that we want to share with them, I think we should. But I'm always a little careful in getting too many of us there and having it, having us be like an active member of their meetings. I didn't see that as the intent.
right.
Yeah, I'll be happy to attend.
We send Harley. Well, good. You'll plan to attend, and at this point, then I probably will not then, and maybe we'll just catch up with notes or if I do attend, I'll be a silent participant.
Right. I guess I'm kind of with Jay too. I'm going to step back. One of us should definitely be there though, and a participant. I think. I mean, we're there as a guest, but boy, after the meeting concludes, we do tend to get drawn into conversation, and you're not in charge of the topic. I think Ed Raber, maybe Ed, are you also planning to attend?
Yes, even though there won't be meatloaf sandwiches, I will still attend.
All things are better when they serve a luncheon or a dinner. Okay. Are there any other issues about the boards and commissions that we want to address?
Were you going to attend the zoning board tonight, Ann, or?
I was not. I don't have it on my schedule.
I have the zoning board at 6, and I have the soil and water conservation at 6. So I can't be on both, but I'll probably go to the soil and water one.
Okay. I will listen in on zoning then. I can do that. Then my night is free, so I'll put zoning on and I'll just listen. That's all we do on those anyway,
Right.
is listen in, but. And I think it's also important to share that, I am doing many more listening ins because we're doing it by Zoom. I would not be getting in my car, a year and a half ago and driving to the zoning meeting. And when I drop in on conservation, which I've done several times as well, I would not be driving to Swiss Valley to attend those meetings, maybe one a year. So, this forum allows us to be listening to so many more boards and commissions than I would have ever been able to do before.
I definitely agree with that.
So. If there's nothing further for us to discuss, then I think we're looking for a motion to recess until Friday. I think we're going to be back together at 1 o'clock for a final review of the budget. That's what my notes say. Is that what others have?
And mine as well.
Yep. I would make a motion to recess till 1 o'clock on Friday.
And I will second that.
Motion is second to recess until 1 o'clock on Friday. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, we are in recess. Thank you, everyone. Greatly appreciate your time. Be well.
You bet. Have a good week.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Ann.
Bye-bye.